Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday's Coffee Lounge Talk. So if you're new here, what we do on this channel on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. is I take one or two Bible verse and I tell you a story that how I relate with that story in my life, and I invite you guys also to share your stories, how you relate that in your life. Because all the struggles and everything they have been through 2000 years ago, we still have similar struggle, right? We are human, and a lot of time when we read them and connect it with our life, it gives us a peace, it gives us joy, it gives us the relentlessness to keep going, right? Which is also it builds resilience. So I really invite you guys to share it down here, and you don't have to be Christian to watch this or connect with these stories, because the thing is, when you go with your own faith or whatever you believe in, it could be your higher self, it could be universe, doesn't matter. When you believe in something that you can't see, your belief, your confidence in yourself will grow. If you don't believe me, watch the videos from 2024, 2025, you will know what I'm talking about. So without further ado, today's verse is Matthew 7:7. Matthew 7:7. And the verse says, "Ask and it will be given. It will be given to you. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened for you." Right? So, and this is a web version, World English Bible version. I don't know if you guys can hear it. That's my my laundry. It is the washer finished and I have to change it to dryer. But anyway, we're gonna do it after this video. I keep it real. You guys know it. So if you are coming here for a while, so the point is, how am I connecting this in my life, especially if you have seen the videos for a while, that I have this YouTube that I started 2 years ago, and it started as a survival journey after two and a half years ago, November 2023, when I lost my corporate executive job suddenly, and 2 to 3 weeks later I lost my marriage suddenly. So now I have a smile when I say that, but my it was dark. It was so dark, I cannot explain it to you guys. I went one day at a time, and then God had different plans for me, and which is how I ended up here. And a lot of this, so along the way, I have published 3 books, and there's a 4th book coming later this year. And there is a meetup community where people who are also rebuilding, a lot of them after divorce, some where they're changing careers, they're there, so they're rebuilding together, right? And they say they feel less alone, and that gives me joy. That gives me a real joy, because in 2024, when I was doing my reinvention, I really wanted a group like that, but it did not exist. There were different kind of groups, but nothing like this. And I wanted to create one, but I did not have the courage. Also because when you are rebuilding something, in the beginning there is so much that goes on, because even after a year, when I started the meetup community, the first event, nobody showed up. So, and that's normal. By then I knew, because I have done other startups and things like that before. So first, when I started the YouTube channel, it was not even I didn't even think that it'll be a business or something. And you guys will see the videos, like even towards the end of the year, I was attending interviews, and then it didn't work out. I was a bit sad. But like I said, God has a different plan. We got to trust the process, trust the timing. And my goal is to help millions of people throughout the world. Yes, it will be in time, because that's something we have to have the patience. You have to follow, the God's timing instead of our own timing. Because when we try to follow our timing, that's when we become the stresses are created literally from that. So you just got to believe in something beyond yourself. Sorry, my hair is a little messy. I had to, doesn't matter. That's all right. I'm going to tell you guys too, follow your authentic self. Doesn't matter. The whole world is a community, right? 8 billion people is a family, like human family. That's what I was telling a friend of mine the other day, and I literally believe it. It's not just philosophical concept for me. I really believe it. It might be a little crazy, but that's my type of crazy craziness, and it gives me joy too. And that is why I feel like I'm really connected to all the people, and that is a concept also. It's called non-duality. That's actually not from Christianity. It's a little different, and I think our faith is very personal, the way it makes sense to you, the way it is, because we all have lived a life, especially if you're in your midlife. Your cultures, how you grew up, and all the experiences in our life shapes us, who we are and how we look at things. And if somebody is trying to push you to shrink to fit in their norm, I would encourage you not to do that, because it is so freeing, my friends. It is so freeing when you live your most authentic self. I can't put it into words. This morning I actually posted on all my platform, Meetup, LinkedIn, and everywhere about that, because it is hard to explain. But when you feel it, you cannot go back from there. When you live from that authentic self, you're just going to do whatever it takes to be that, because it is showing yourself the same compassion that you are going to show to others. It is a form of self-love. It's not selfish. It is more compassion towards yourself, right? Okay, so the story is like, as I want to expand and want to help lots of people, how do I do it, right? So in my case, I pray to God, and when I don't know, I ask God to show me how. And there are many ways you will be able to connect. If it is universe, synchronicity, God, for different people it works different ways. But the point is, you got to slow yourself down, meaning, because inside our head we have this, I call it inner coach versus inner critic. Inner coach is the positive voice, and the inner critic is the negative voice. So if you keep working on yourself, that the positive voice gets louder, and the inner critic, unfortunately it's never going to go away, because life will throw things at you. But if you quiet it down, instead of pushing it down, if you expand this, which is my book 3, 90-day reinvention guide, I teach you like how to expand it. Then your mind is more peaceful, and that is when you will know how to read the signs, right? So imagine when in Buddhism, I think they have this type of concept that, like, if the water, when the water in a river or pond, or even in a cup, if you have water and there is dirt all around, you can't see the bottom, right? You can't see the bottom of the river. But however, when the dirt goes all the way down, and the water is clear, you get to see the bottom from the top of the river, right? And that is what I'm talking about. In our mind, when there are lots of spiraling thought going around, you can't see what you need to see, right? And that is how you can you pray to God, you ask God, like going back to the verse, ask and it'll be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened for you. So for me, by praying, so one very interesting thing happened is that December was when I published my second book, which was the book number 1 of the trilogy, which is Grateful After Goodbye, From Pain to Purpose. On that book, I teach you how to find your purpose from your pain, because I truly believe that our deepest purpose is hidden in our deepest pain. And if you face the fear, you know how when you face the deepest fear, you eventually like feel the thrill. It's almost like that kind of a concept. And the book 2 of the trilogy, Discovering Your Inner Light, is coming later this year. So that is what I'm working hard on, along with my meetup events, YouTube, and a bunch of other things. So from that book is when I got invited. It's an invite-only event, 400 plus people, authors, YouTubers, and entrepreneurs. They are invited to Boston in July 11th and 12th. So there are lots of popular people who will be the presenters. I'm not the presenter, but I'll be attending, and I hope maybe next year I'll be the presenter. Who knows? So the point is that, this is a reach that I did not plan for it. they actually found me on LinkedIn after I posted about that book. Not only that, it was around Christmas, so somehow as a lot of things were going on, I actually forgot to reply. So the person who reached out, he reached out again after Christmas, because I was thinking that, a lot of things were piling up. I'm going to respond in the New Year's, but then he responded between the Christmas and New Year's window, and then scheduled a meeting with their owner in January. We talked about, and then he talked about me attending this event in July. Like, it is so exciting, so exciting. So the point is, that's how you're, sometimes we think about how am I going to help millions of people, right? Because right now I have local community. I'm going to grow it to nationwide and then globally and all of that. But all of that is possible. You don't have to think the how and when. How and when is in God's timing, if you believe in God. If not, universe, your higher power, how and when is all about when I talk about it. You guys have heard me saying, trust the process, trust the timing, right? So the process is the how, and when is the timing. So you got to absolutely believe the process and the timing, right? So yesterday, a friend of mine and we were talking about faith, right? So it was so interesting how all of this kind of weaves in together, and I was helping her a little bit. In the morning, I was listening to a video, and I'll tell you. So it was actually Joel Osteen's video. And then again, like, if you guys don't like Joel Osteen, like, he could be a little controversial for some people. I learned from everybody. Literally everybody who we are thinking right now could be most controversial person in the world right now. I learned from everybody. So anyway, I like Joel Osteen's messages, because I think, they have done a lot of good, and nobody's perfect. But anyway, on the other point, so in the message, he talked about faith is not only believing in God, but also believing in God's timing, right? That goes so well with one of the mantra that every night I recite to myself before I go to bed, is the trusting the process and trusting the timing. And that goes hand in hand with faith, because that is part of the belief we got to have. Because when we try to force it to when and how, like we try to control it, it just creates stress, right? Because we can't have that, if you want to, let's say right now you can run only 2 or 3 miles, which is my case. And someday if I want to run a marathon, if I keep a goal that I'm going to run a marathon of 26 miles in a month, I'm just going to stress out. I won't be able to do it. I might not be able to do it even a year unless I have a coach. But that's not my goal. The point is, we got to get there slowly, right? Sorry about my hair. It's kind of looking really messy, but that's all right. So so you gotta if my goal was to run a marathon, which is not, I want to increase it to 5 miles or something. That's fine. That works for me. But if you want to run a marathon, first is when and how it'll happen. You will plan. You might have a coach. You would work with them so that every month or every other month you're expanding how much you can do. But from your health perspective, what you're eating, all of that will change, and your mindset, right? The when and how you're going to do it, you might keep a target for a year. It might end up being 1.5 years, and not stressing about it is important. And that is what I learned through this process in the last couple of years, because when my book 2 with the trilogy was supposed to publish, my plan was October. And then eventually it was published in December. Normally, when I was in corporate, I would just go crazy. I was like, no, I have to figure out a way to publish it in October. But then when I let the timing to work in itself, there were things that happened that got into the material of the book, which was so very important. So very important. And those events and things won't happen if I pushed the book in October. And the timing, I can't tell you guys, it's like, you call it synchronicity, you call it God's timing, all of this played out in a way, just the way it's supposed to, right? So trust the process, trust the timing, don't stress about it, everything will unfold. Just believe in something so much so that there is no trace of doubt. Okay, with that, I'm going to finish the video. Take care. Bye.